Right, guys, welcome. And my God, Grant, this book is beautiful. So
yeah,
since
the stream a couple months ago now, it was revealed?
I don't know at this point, but probably 4 weeks ago at the point we're recording this, probably about 6 weeks ago at the point you guys are watching this. At the minute, little tidbits have been coming out on the community page. Grant has thoroughly read them. I haven't read them because I've started a new job. But we have Dominion. Well, I have Dominion. Grant doesn't.
Yes.
But we haven't read the rulebook yet.
No.
So this is literally a first reaction video of core rules and match play rules only. We're not covering them in this video, and this is more a case of us discovering the rules, talking about them together, and you guys hanging out with us. Rather than us reviewing the rules, we're just going to read them and discover them with you guys watching.
Yeah, this isn't a be-all and end-all competitive. Here's what everything is. This is just what are we playing? What are we doing? How's this going to work?
Yeah, exactly. So, a beautiful limited edition book with a nice, lovely spine. This is going to be available separately. I think, is this coming out at the same time as Dominion? Because they put up a picture of loads of stuff that was going for pre-order, isn't it?
That rule book is only in Dominion,
but with a different cover. It is available separately. Yeah,
it's the same cover, but it's got like it's not the full picture. There's like a red banner across the top for Age of Sigmar and a red spine. It's actually really nice. I really like the red theme they're going with for this edition of Age of Sigmar. It's very classic Warhammer.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember this girl's name, but she's Sanguinius' daughter.
A little bit, yeah.
Look! The spear of what's it called? I want to say Telesar. I can't remember the name.
I was going to say Destiny. Sorry.
And there's the Encarmine Blade. But
I still can't believe she's in the starter box.
No, and I'll hold my hands up. At this point of filming this, I haven't looked at the models. I have not looked at them.
This isn't a starter box. I need to get out of that habit. This is Dominion. It's not the starter boxes that will be coming. This is the special.
Yeah. Because they did this with Indomitus last year, though, didn't they? They released Indomitus, and then there was 3 versions of a starter set that came after. So, anyway, let's stop talking. Let's go and read the rules and see what's actually changed, because some things that have been on the community page I think are pretty cool. Monsters, heroes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other things like coherency, I don't like.
Yeah, there's bits of it that I like, and there's some consequences of it. I don't know if there's going to be a reasoning for it in here.
Yeah.
But there is some consequence of that I'm really worried about.
So
but I can also see exactly why they've done it.
Oh yeah, totally. And now I was glad they did it in 40k, but I think they've just pushed it a little too far in Sigmar. Anyway, the first 237 pages of the book, right, is lore, is talking about factions, cities, you know, realms. It's all there. There's lots of maps, Grant. You're going to really love this.
I am. I'm looking forward to diving into the lore.
For me, it's not for me. I don't read. It's why I got into finance and not words. So we're going to jump straight in at the core rules. We're going to read them together. And like I said, this is going to be a long video. This is probably going to be, you know, at this point, I'm going to speculate about 2 hours, Grant.
Yeah, probably something like that.
So this is literally just us discussing the rules and discovering them together. One thing they have put in, though, Grant, the player's code.
Yeah, which I think was in some general's handbooks before.
Yeah,
maybe?
I think the first one, which was 2016, I think. There was a basic player's code, which I think was more for tournament player. But it's nice that we've got this in, and if you are getting into Age of Sigmar or the hobby for the first time, there is a few things in there. Avoid using language your opponent might find offensive.
Yeah.
Make respectful gesture to your opponent before and after the game, such as offering the handshake, which we can't do at the minute.
Yeah.
And wishing them good luck. Ask your
elbow bump at the moment.
Yeah. Ask your opponent's permission if you wish to use unpainted or substitute models. Fine. Offer your opponent a chance to examine your army roster. This is all common sense, but for some people, they need to be reminded of this.
Yes.
But it is nice that they've put it in.
It's just nice to have this written down as a. It's all well and good everyone saying, be a good sport, play the game in the right spirit, but at least having this front and center is an easy place that everyone can refer to.
Yeah. I need to read this one a little bit more. Never complain about your bad luck or your opponent's good luck.
Yeah, that's one you need to take, especially one of the more recent videos at this point, a Gloomspite Gits versus Reapers video.
But there has been a couple of videos since then, which you guys have probably now seen, where I have actually rolled quite well. So I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, it's a nice addition that they've added it in. But starting with the core rules, and I won't lie, Grant counted and said this is 48 pages.
Yeah, something like that, it looks like.
That includes the match play, so let's go about 40 pages. That's come a long way since 4 pages of first edition.
Some would say it's even 10 times the amount, and even I can work that out.
Yeah. Do we feel we need to go over core concepts such as factions, battle tomes, models, friendly and enemy models, remove from play, units, war scrolls? That's all there, right? I don't think we need...
Don't think there's anything changed in these, so
apart from unit coherency.
Yes. Is that in this bit?
It is. It's on the second page of it. So units must be set up and finish every move as a single coherent group. A unit with 2 to 5 models is coherent if each model in the unit is within 1 inch horizontally and 6 inches vertically of at least one other model in the unit. A unit with more than 5 is coherent if each model in this unit is within 1 inch horizontally and 6 vertical of at least 2 models in the unit. If a friendly unit is not coherent at the end of a turn or after you set it up, you must remove models from the unit from play one at a time until it is coherent. Now, 40k did this with 9th edition. Good change. Stops conga lines. Totally agree with it.
Yeah.
However, 40k is, I believe, 11 or more. You have to do it.
A lot better.
Now, for Sigmar, I don't understand why they went down to 5, because how many cavalry units are units of 3, 6, 9?
Well, yeah, and it's not even just what cavalry it is, it's the ones on the massive bases, like your Gore-Grunters are the big one, your Juggernauts for core,
Yeah.
I mean, some get around it, like we were discussing before, more in fan, they come in groups of 2, so there can be okay, but you're still limited, because you can still take more than 4. But now you're just not going to. Yeah,
and like bases that size, it's really, really difficult to keep them coherent. You're forcing one of them behind and not attack to keep coherency, and that's crazy.
It's especially well, it to me makes this even stranger is that unit sizes in Sigmar are generally larger than they are in 40k.
Yeah, so why not the other way around?
Exactly. Like, units of 20 plus aren't uncommon in Age of Sigmar. Multiple units of that size. 40, I think 60 is where it gets stop. And clan rats, I think, are
stabbers and shooters are 60 as well.
Yeah. So it's definitely possible to be that size.
But like 40 skeletons, 40 ghouls, like Lucy often runs 40 ghouls and 30 dryads and stuff like that.
I mean, it's less of an issue with infantry. Because you can just rank up.
Yeah. Unless you are ogres.
Yeah, 40 mil infantry is going to be a whole other thing.
Which actually includes Stormcast.
Yeah, that's why. Well, it'll maybe make sense. There's maybe something coming.
Yeah.
So that thing I've noticed on here.
Oh, endless spells.
Yeah.
Your army can include 1 endless spell for each wizard in your army and 1 invocation for each priest in your army. In addition, your army can include one faction terrain feature. That is kind of good because how many? I mean, you'll know more than me. How many Zinch lists turn up and they've got I've got these 5 endless spells in my roster.
Well, not anymore because you're limited to 3 now in match play. You were at the end of AOS 2. They limited you to 3. But I was guilty of that. I ran a Bone Splitter's army with like 5 endless spells.
And just cast whichever one you fancy.
Yeah, that was before they were good. I mean, I did that bad time. Then they got good, and I'd stopped doing it. But yeah, so, and you would, I do think it's a good change. I think it also links into what was previewed in the article as of the time we're recording this, which we'll get to, is the way you control endless spells, and that links directly into this list here.
Yeah. So because basically,
positive.
From what I understand, from what I've seen, we'll read it later on, they're moving in both hero phases now, which means that if you are casting multiple endless spells from one wizard, for example, who's got Fate Weaver? Fate Weaver could easily cast 3 endless spells in one turn.
Yeah.
Right? If you've only got Fate Weaver and then you've only got like Screamers, Horrors, Acolytes, whatever, right? Do you know what I mean? He's going to be putting out a lot. Now you're limited. So it kind of, and I don't know if anybody like previously before Nagash went up to like 800 points, then 880, now 975, right? How many people in Nagash just used to chuck endless spells in originally just to like spam them?
Yeah, but back when you could throw them all through the portal as well. You could throw the portal and then just throw the endless spells in.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that links into this is that wizards can control endless spells to a certain degree now. Yeah. So that's it just seems to be quite a nice way of doing things. More than I think it's giving a bit of control to the endless spells, which is both a good and a bad thing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing as well, I think we've forgotten to mention, and we should going forward, is the way these rules are written. Right. So we were speaking about unit coherency. Well, what we should have said is section of the rules 1.3.3. Right. So that's exactly the section on coherency. And you notice this all the way through the book. Every section has its own reference, so it's going to be super easy to find which bit of the rules you need to if you've got a situation that comes up on the table and you don't know what the answer is. Yeah. Once you find it, you can go, it's page. So in this case, it's page 249, section 1.3.3. Bang, you're right there. Yeah. I love the change of the way this rulebook is written. I'm 2 pages in, and I think it's probably my favourite Games Workshop. The 9th edition 40k book was written better than the 8th edition. It was because the 8th edition one had rules in the sides here, and it was crazy. Like the 9th edition one was good. Like, off to the sides is where they're now doing the examples. It's just such a neat way of doing the book. Yeah. The 40k one was good because it explained the whole rule in full. And then I had a bullet point underneath for the abbreviated version, if you were just a quick reader. That was good. I liked that a lot. So, moving on to the tools of war, measuring distances. Does it mention within and wholly within? Measured in inches. The distance between 2 models is measured between the closest points of the base of the model. If a model does not have a base, measure to and from the closest point of the model instead. I can't think of... no, some big models don't have bases, Grant. Like the Corn Dragon. Does it not officially have a base?
I don't think so.
I know it doesn't come with one, but is there there must be a recommended size.
I don't know. Always measure between the closest models from each unit. For example, a unit within 12 of another unit, as long as at least one model from that unit is within 12 or less from at least one model in the other unit. Sometimes a rule will require you to draw a line of sight between 2 models and 2 points in the battlefield. When this is the case, the line is an imaginary one and is assumed to be 1 millimeter wide. So it doesn't mention wholly within there. Oh, that does it. At the side. Yeah, the breakout box at the side. A model is wholly within a certain distance of something if every part of its base is within the stated distance. A unit is wholly within a certain distance of something if every part of the base of all of the models in the unit are within the stated distance. Yeah. So nice and clear. Rolling off. Sometimes a rule may require the players to roll off. To roll off, each player rolls a dice, and whoever has the highest wins. If a roll off is tied, roll off again. You cannot re-roll or modify the dice when you roll off. rerolls. Some rules refer to rerolls. To make a reroll, roll the dice used for the roll. Again, you cannot reroll a dice more than once. If a rule allows you to reroll an XD6 roll.
Yeah, so it's just
so if it's 2d6, for example, for a charge, you must re-roll all of the dice used for the roll, which is now what they've done in 40k as well. So that's pretty good. Dice roll modifiers. Sometimes a modifier will apply to a dice roll. Modifiers are applied after re-rolls. Rules that refer to an unmodified roll are referring to the dice roll after re-rolls have been made, but before modifiers are applied. If a rule instructs you to pick or change a roll, do so after re-rolls are made, but before modifiers. So that's nice and easy, because at one point, do you know that ability that Kurnoth Hunters have to re-roll their save?
Yeah.
So now, originally, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but now you have to re-roll, I think their saves are 4+, so you would re-roll your saves, failed saves on a 4+, then you'd have to then modify it, for example, if you hit with Ren -2 to a 6. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago now, and it wasn't as common then, or as clear. I think someone Lucy was playing was re-rolling all of their dice on a 6-up save, but it was re-rolls before modifiers, so like we had to correct them and show the rules where that was. So it's nice that it's definitely there, it's 100% there, it's really clear.
And if you notice the box to the side of that,
in most cases, modifiers are cumulative. However, some dice rolls, such as a hit... such as a hit and wound roll will specify the roll cannot be modified by more than +1 or -1. When this is the case, add up all the modifiers that apply, and if the total is more than +1 or -1, treat it as being +1 or -1. That's an interesting change, because, like...
I think I saw this coming.
Yeah. Lord, yeah. It makes sense. It does, because then you can't just go, oh, I've got 3 abilities that give me +3 to wound, +1 to wound. Or suddenly me grot stabbers are now stabbers get +2 to wound if there's more than 30 in the unit.
Yeah, so that'll be changed. I mean, all this will have to be changed. That's the thing. But back when I was like considering what this would be, the one idea I was thinking about was, instead of +2 to 1 stat or -1 or -2 to 1 stat, they might just do +1 hit, +1 wound. So you're getting benefits to both rather than just doubling up on the one benefit.
Yeah.
I think as well, it is going to affect some armies, but it was never any fun when you were charging into a unit and they were like -3 to hit. So you were having to roll 6s to do anything. It was just a pillow fight.
Does this at least affect eels?
Probably not.
Oh. So moving on to the next page, abilities and effects. When an ability is used, its effect is applied. In addition, most effects have restrictions. Abilities can also be found in sets of allegiance abilities, and in the rules for battalions, see 26.0. An example ability is shown below. Do not take Battleshock for test for Stormcast Eternal and Cities of Sigmar units wholly within 12. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
What have we got next? Abilities and phases. An ability may say that it is used at the start of the phase or at the end of the phase. If it does not specify, then it is used during the phase. Abilities that are used at the start of the phase are used before anything else happens in the phase, while abilities used at the end of the phase are used after anything else happens in the phase. Abilities that are used during the phase can be used at any time in the phase. Do you reckon like the word phase?
Yeah, it's starting to lose all meaning now.
Yeah. Basically, if it says at the start of the phase, do it first. If it's at the end of the phase, do it last. If it says during the phase, do it at some point in the middle.
Yeah. But again, it's nice. It's spelled out. It's hopefully.
Yeah. Learn your armies.
Well, yeah.
Because some stuff has, like, I think the Bite the Moon for the Loon boss on Mangler Squig has to be used at the start of the combat phase. You've got to do that first.
Yeah.
Got to do it first. Oh, here's an interesting one. Simultaneous effects. If the effect 2 or more abilities would be applied at the same time in a turn, the player whose turn is taking place applies the effects of their ability first, one at a time, in the order that they desire. Their opponent then does the same. If the effects of 2 or more abilities would be applied at the same time other than during a turn, the players roll off and the winner applies the effects of their abilities first, one at a time, in the order they desire. Their opponent then does the same. Side heading for abilities and phases. Effects that allow a unit to fight at the start or end of the combat phase are called strike first effects and strike last effects respectively. Special rules apply when units with these effects attack. I'm going to guess that's the same as what they've just clarified with 40k.
Well, I'm hoping so.
Which means fanatics fighting first in your opponent's turn isn't going to be a thing because it's their turn, so they pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Contradictory effects. When the effect of 2 or more abilities are contradictory, the last one that applies takes precedence. So they don't cancel each other. I'm convinced that they cancelled them out at one point.
There wasn't really a clear answer, I think, at one point was the problem. So obviously, with this, it's going to be... So if I give you, say, fights last in my hero phase, but then it's in your... then it's the combat phase, and you give the same unit fight first.
Mine takes precedence because I applied it last.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, again, I think a lot of this stuff will, as Battle Tomes come out, we'll see probably a lot of this tied up anyway.
We've got triggered effects. The effect of some abilities are applied when a dice roll triggers them. For example, the effect of an ability might be triggered if an unmodified hit roll for an attack is a 6. A triggered effect is applied immediately after the roll that triggered it. If 2 or more effects are triggered at the same time, only one of those effects... Only one of those effects can be applied.
Okay, yeah.
So, hypothetically, say, I know Retributor's hammers used to have Blast to Smithereens or something, which was 2 mortal wounds on a 6.
Yeah.
And correct us if I'm wrong, I believe there was a prayer or a spell that allowed 6s to generate extra hits for Stormcast. I'm
fairly certain.
That means...
That's quite an example.
That means...
Of a combination that will exist.
Yeah, so that means that if you roll a 6 to hit, you're either doing the 2 mortal wounds or you're doing an extra hit. You're not getting both. Because there was this weird interaction where, yes, you do your 2 mortal wounds, you generate an extra hit, but you then add that to your wound roll pile.
Yeah.
It doesn't count as 2 6s as having hit because you didn't roll the other 6. Like, that confused a lot of people. So...
And it also meant that a lot of those attacks like that would be like, on a 6, do the mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. Well, by giving the additional hit, you're bypassing that, so you're getting the mortal wounds and then the normal attack as well.
Yeah. So basically, it's preventing you stacking abilities. Or the trigger on the same roll. Shooting or fighting more than once. The effects of some abilities allow a unit to shoot or fight more than once in the same phase. However, the effect of an ability cannot allow a unit to shoot or fight more than twice in the same phase. So, I can't really think of any example. I know Marathi allows a unit to fight or shoot in the hero phase, but hypothetically, say she could pick 2 units, you can't pick the same unit twice to do that. I wonder if what is the guy on the seahorse called? Volturnus.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something in here that stops him triple stacking his command ability to get +3 attacks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because there's a lot more commander points now. Commander points? There's a lot more command points now.
Yeah.
Going around. So I've been wanting an end to stacking for a while. I think it was done for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, remember back at the start of 2nd edition, you would come in like 300 points under, have a heap of command points, drop down with Gabriel in 40 evocators and just automatically make your charge in.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
Yeah, and then then they're limited to 1 command point, which I think was fair.
Yeah, but there was still that option to stack because they didn't do an overall FAQ. They just FAQ'd certain abilities.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see how this plays out.
The battlefield is a flat surface upon which models can stand, such as a table or the floor. The size of the
we've all been there with Floorhammer.
The size of the battlefield will be determined by the battle pack you have decided to use. See point 28. Terrain feature rules. See 17. The rest of the battlefield is open ground. Notice that they've bolded and highlighted the key words, or certain phrases and things. That's quite cool. Deployment. After the battlefield has been prepared, you and your opponent must deploy your armies. The battle pack you are using will explain how deployment takes place. Okay. Reserve and summoned units. Sometimes a rule will allow you to set up a unit in a location other than the battlefield as a reserve unit. A unit that is added to your army once the battle is underway is called a summoned unit. When you set up a reserve unit, either during deployment or once the battle is underway, you must tell your opponent that the unit is in reserve and keep it to one side instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the start of the 4th battle round, units that are still in reserve are destroyed. Units cannot cast spells or use abilities while they are in reserve unless the spell or ability specifically says that it can be used.
Which, at the moment, I don't think anything can.
No. So they've put that... some people will have tried to abuse it.
Yeah, but it also could be a sign of things to come. We could have units that can be in reserve and still manipulate the game in some way. Possibly. Which could be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe say like a hero character off the board that can still influence the battle, and then when he comes on the board, he loses that ability but gains something else. Like that could be something we're maybe in the road for.
Yeah, and we probably might not see this entirely until we start getting like more battle tomes out.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Zinch could manipulate something from off the board.
Yeah.
So battle rounds. A battle is fought in a series of battle rounds. At the start of the battle round, the players make a priority roll, and each player takes 1 turn. The player that... I'll start again. A battle is fought in a series of battle rounds. At the start of the battle round, the players make a priority roll, and then each player takes 1 turn. Each turn is split into 6 phases. Once the second turn has finished, it is the end of the battle round and a new one begins. The priority roll. At the start of each battle round, the players must roll off. This is called the priority roll. The winner has priority in that battle round and must decide who will take the first turn and who will take the second turn. In the event of a tied priority roll, do not roll off again. Instead, if it is the first battle round, the player who finished deploying their army first has priority. Otherwise, the player who went first in the previous battle round has priority. So that changed slightly for the deployment thing.
It changed massively.
Yeah, because...
You said just whoever the lowest drops went first. Or could choose, sorry.
Yes. So you're actually rolling off now for the first turn.
Yeah, regardless.
Right.
If it's a tie, then dropping... So having low drops isn't really that big a deal anymore.
No.
Because only on a tie is it going to matter.
So you've only got a 2 in 36 chance?
You're the numbers, man.
I think it's 2 in 30... 1 in 18. 1 in 18 chance of it happening. Is it really worth building an army for low drops now?
Based on this so far, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think
not at all. So far, build away.
Yeah, seems that way. Take what you want and have fun. Which is interesting because, especially in the tournament and competitive, you're always like, we need to try and get less than 4 drops, which limits what you can do.
You build your list sometimes around an alpha strike or as a defensive list, so that you force your opponent to go first in the hopes that you get the double turn.
Yeah, if you are like less than 4 drops, say currently, you tend to be building to go either first or second.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have the choice a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like my Archeon list that I used for a while. Like, that's 5 drops. And whilst 5's not small, it's not massive.
No.
And because of his manipulation of the turns, it allowed me to really decide, you know, do I want to go first? Do I want to go second, roll off, and then know exactly what's happening on turn 2 so I can either camp down or march forward and know that I'm double turning my opponent. So that's pretty handy.
Yeah. Which, again, this is a change I wanted. I mean, I'm guilty of it. My Beast Claw Raider list is 2 drops for that reason.
Yeah.
I'm almost always guaranteeing that I'm going to be going second.
I'll be honest, right? I'm kind of surprised that the roll-off stayed because I see so many people crying about it. But it's such a good thing.
It's too ingrained in the core of Age of Sigmar. If they were to get rid of it, there would be a whole new game. It would be a completely different game. They'd have to rebalance so much in the game. I've actually watched some battle reports that specifically don't use it, and it just doesn't. It's just not the same.
No,
there's too much planning going on because you can see what's going to happen. You've always got the risk of your plans.
I think this is why I'm not too fussed on competitive 40k, because people build and plan, especially with the secondary objectives now. Like, people really meticulous. 40k has become a game of chess.
Yeah.
And that turns me off a little bit. I'm not overly fussed on that. So I am glad that they kept it, but I'm still kind of surprised because so many people were against it.
I think it's a vocal minority. The sales figures for 40k for AOS say it alone that most people are happy with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think once people stop looking at it as a double turn and look at it as a priority role, and you learn to play around it, it changes your opinion on it.
Yep. Command points, though. After determining who will take which turn, the player who will take the first turn receives 1 command point, and the player who will take the second turn receives 2 command points. You're getting 2 command points immediately, but then you would still get 1 in your hero phase if that's still a thing.
Yeah, they did say that in the community article. I'm not sure.
So they're giving you 2 command points simply for going second, so that if you need to, you can use Inspiring Presence. There's nothing worse than having, like, 60 stabbers, and then Lucy dropping 9 Hurricane crossbows in front of you, and just blasting 30 of them off the table, and oh look, my squad's not wholly within 12 of me Loon Shrine. Bye-bye the rest of my squad.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So that is a nice change, and I think for a lot, it stops. It gives a little bit of protection against that first turn alpha strike.
It also gives you, if you need in command abilities and you're going to want to choose to go second.
Oh yeah.
So that's the other thing. It's opening up. It's now not about going. It's now not necessarily always about going first. I mean, so they're keeping the priority rule in, but it's giving you more incentive to choose to go second, which changes up a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of command points, allow you to use command abilities. You receive command points at the start of the battle round after the priority roll is determined. In addition, if your general is on the battlefield at the start of your hero phase, you receive 1 command point. So, so every turn, if you go...
Say you're playing a game, and we roll off, and you win, and you take the turn. You'll get 1 command point, and I'll get 2, and then in your hero phase, you'll get another 1 for your general being on
which puts me at 2, but then in your hero phase, you'll get 1, which will give you 3.
Unless you get rid of my general, yes.
Right. They're going to have to seriously FAQ saying that Relentless Discipline points wouldn't really be affected by this, but then at the same time, it would be a bit unfair.
I did see somebody bring that up today, and one of the Games Workshop development team on Twitter did comment that that's going to be sorted out.
Right.
Like what they said was basically saying, like, look, if there is a reason, it's all going to make sense. Just
wait.
Hang tight. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll find that out around the launch of the game, probably, unless they do it in a community article before then.
Oh, Holy wow. At the end of the battle round, any command points that have not been used are lost.
Oh!
Wow.
Yes.
So you can't triple stack Volturnus.
You can.
Well, yeah, if you go second, but you know what I mean.
If you go second, yeah. But you can't get 6 attacks on them, or 9 attacks on them.
That's good. That is such a good thing. Like, I do enjoy the relentless...
Now discipline points. Everyone now has relentless discipline points. Because they work the same way.
Almost. Obviously, they have a chance to get more, which is fair.
Yeah, but what I mean is they disappear. You generate them and they disappear. Yeah.
It's good, but at the same time, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. No, I think this is great, because you're now going to want to spend them rather than sit on them for that prime moment to need them.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford to, because they're going to be gone.
See, as an Archaon player, I like getting 2 command points every turn because of Archaon's ability. It's going to be interesting with that, but then the fact that at the end you can't just wait until turn 3, save 1 every turn, and then just go, right, you, and you, and myself, if you die, fight.
Yeah. No.
None of that.
Nope.
Oh, wow, that's tactical, that.
Yeah.
So using command abilities. To use a command ability, you must spend 1 command point. Pick 1 friendly model to issue the command, and pick 1 friendly unit to receive the command. Unless noted otherwise, the models that can issue commands and the units that can issue them are as follows. Unit champions can issue commands to their own unit. Good. That is taken directly from the Bone Reaper's book. Because Hekatos can...
It also gives champions a reason to be in the units more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it adds more power to those abilities, like giants, like the Sons of Behemoth have, to pick a model and take it out of a unit. So if you have a unit on its own holding an objective and you put a giant in there, you pick out that unit, you pick out that champion, they can no longer use command abilities.
Yeah. So that's good. Heroes can issue commands to units which are wholly within 12 of them. Generals can issue commands to units which are wholly within 18 of them, and totems can issue commands to units wholly within 18.
So I like totems have a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Each command ability will say when it can be used and what effect it has on the unit that receives it. A model cannot issue more than 1 command ability in the same phase. So you cannot triple stack Volturnus.
No.
And a
unit cannot receive more than 1 command.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. In addition, you cannot use the same command ability more than once in the same phase. Oh, so Archaon's been nerfed there, because now we can only pick 1 unit to fight when they die.
But also, you now can no longer Inspiring Presence 4 units. Only 1 unit can ever be Inspiring Presence.
Oh,
which is great, because it means
leadership matters.
Battleshock is something again. It hasn't been for a while now.
No.
So any members that can manipulate bravery are in a better place, and all your ignored Battleshock command abilities that heroes have, or auras that they have, is now also worth more.
Yeah, because now it means that they can give that free of charge without issuing a command, if they still have that.
Well, as the preview was a couple pages back, the new Stormcast Eternals character, Yndrasta, you don't take Battleshock tests for units holding within 12 of her.
So obviously you keep some units within 12, and then you've got 1 Inspiring Presence outside of the 12-inch range of her.
But that range there is all fine. Yeah.
Which, as you said, makes her now more relevant.
Exactly.
That's it. I like that. That's a good change. That's a good for the better of the game. Absolutely, that is a good change.
Yeah, I mean, you look at armies like Nighthaunt. His whole thing is bravery manipulation, and so many armies were just like.
Do you know what?
Presence.
I seen a guy post on Facebook about how Nighthaunt were basically shafted. Right.
Well, yeah. Because you'll find many people disagree with that.
They are anyway. They're an old book, right? but they were saying, oh, you've got to get to combat now. You've got the reactions, people can move out the way. You've got everybody doing this. Is the thing that gives you +1 save on a hero, is that even going to work because you can't modify your saves? And then the unit coherency thing, and then everyone was just like, they just shafted them. I don't disagree, but
no,
that minus bravery makes such a difference now, because you go, right, I'm going to target that horde over there, and I'm going to go for that horde over there. Right, now you can only inspire a presence one of them.
They've also got a battalion that can get it to -2. And if you notice, that wasn't, they didn't say that you couldn't put your bravery down further than that, obviously.
No, it was hit and wounds only.
Yeah. So there you go, now we're at -2 bravery.
I'm sure there's like spells and stuff as well.
There is. Yeah.
And
there's
there's
ways to manipulate.
Doesn't
the
Nagash head's -1 or 2 bravery as well?
-2. It was -1, but -2 within a short range.
Yeah, exactly. So like, do you know what I mean? Nighthorn can probably bravery bomb.
Yeah, which would be great to see. It's a different style we've not seen in a while. So,
Spite Revenants.
Yeah. Again, you just take Tree Revenants because they're better, but now you're playing Spite Revenants.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, hero phase. Now,
yes.
We've been talking 40 minutes and we're only just getting onto the hero phase.
Right.
So, at the start of the hero phase, starting with the player whose turn is taking place, each player can pick one hero to perform a heroic action. One hero. And each player receives 1 command point if their general is on the battlefield. So that's interesting. So you only get the command point if your general is actually on the battlefield now.
Yeah.
In addition, in your hero phase, you can use friendly wizards to attempt to cast spells, friendly priests to chant prayers and attempt to banish invocations, and both to attempt to dispel endless spells, see 19.3, because priests can now do that.
Yeah.
In the enemy hero phase, you can use friendly wizards to attempt to unbind spells, see 19.2. Okay. A unit with the hero keyword on its war scroll is a hero. Really? At the start of the hero phase, you can carry out 1 heroic action from the table below with 1 friendly hero. The effect of the heroic action is treated in the same way as an effect of an ability for the rule's purpose. So 1 hero can do 1 action. That's it. Yeah?
Yes.
So people
you can carry out 1 heroic action from the table with 1 friendly hero. Yeah?
So these have been previewed already, so we'll just cover them quickly. Heroic Leadership, pick a friendly hero and roll a dice, add 2 to the roll if your general has been slain. On a 4+, you receive 1 command point. That can only be spent during that turn to allow that hero to issue a command. That's cool.
Yeah. It's probably the least exciting of the 4.
Yeah. Unless you really, really need that command point.
Yeah.
I like how if your general's not alive, it gives you a better chance to get one because you haven't gotten one at the start of your turn. It's probably going to be useful later on in the game.
Yeah.
Heroic Willpower, pick 1 friendly hero that is not a wizard. If it is the enemy hero phase, that hero can attempt to unbind 1 spell in the phase as if they were a wizard. If it is your hero phase, that hero can attempt to dispel 1 endless spell as if it were a wizard. You can still only attempt to unbind or dispel the same endless spell once. Cool. Okay. Their finest hour. You're going to see this one a lot.
Yeah. The next 2, I think you'll see a lot.
Yeah. Pick 1 friendly hero. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with that hero until the end of that turn. Turn being player turn. And add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target the hero until the end of that turn. You cannot carry out this heroic action with the same hero more than once in the same battle. Pick who is charging and using that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you've got if
you lined up a charge with your Frostlord on Stonehorn, that's when you're going to do it.
Yeah, and then the next turn you do it with your Huskard or your other Stonehorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then heroic recovery. Pick 1 friendly hero and make a heroic recovery roll by rolling 2d6. If the roll is less than that hero's bravery characteristic, you can heal up to d3 wounds allocated to that hero. If the roll is equal to that hero's bravery characteristic, you can heal 1 wound. Cool.
Cool. Healing's good.
Nighthorn. Bravery 10, anyone?
Well, see, I was thinking Great Unclean One.
Yes.
Who already heals D3 a turn.
Yeah.
Automatically, so now you can heal 2d3 a turn.
Absolutely. Hero phase command abilities. You can use it. Rally. You can use this command ability at the start of the hero phase. The unit that receives the command ability must be more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Roll 1 dice for each slain model in that unit. Oh my word! For each 6, you can return 1 slain model. Poor ghouls.
It's not even ghouls. There's 2 issues with this. Potentially.
You've read the Soul Blight book.
Yeah.
Does this help?
Well, yeah, it won't hurt, but that wasn't even the problem. There's 2 worse problems than that.
What's the problem?
Horrors. For a start, because what are you bringing back? This will be FAQ.
That'll be FAQ. They'll make you bring brimstones or blues back. They will not give you pinks for that.
Well, and the other one, this is more of a funny one that was pointed out, because this was previewed on the community page. Is what about Mancrusher Gargants?
Unit of 3 and you roll a 6 and you get a whole Gargant back.
Yeah. I mean, is that a thing? Are they going to find some way to stop you doing that?
But at the same time, if you've got a squad of 9 Gorgrunters, why not? You're rolling less dice.
Oh yeah, it's so you're gonna need to spike quite high, but it's this thought of you killing 2 out of 3 man crushers, and then you get 6 and 2 of them.
I am never letting Lucy pick up my man crushers. Ever. That's cool. It's cool though.
Yeah.
Movement phase. I don't think that much will have changed here, but
I was just gonna say have a quick run through.
In your movement phase, you can pick 1 friendly unit that is more than 3 from all enemy units and declare that it will make a normal move or that it will run. You can pick 1 friendly unit that is within... No. Pick 1 friendly unit that is within 3 of an enemy unit and declare it will retreat. I thought it was saying only 1. That's how it kind of reads, but it's basically saying 1 at a time, isn't it? Once you have moved the models in that unit, you can pick another friendly unit and declare that it will make a normal move, run or retreat, or so on, until as many units as you wish to have made a normal move, run or retreated. Once you've made a normal move, run or retreated with a unit, you cannot pick it again in that phase. Normal move. When you pick a unit to make a normal move, you can move each model in that unit a distance in inches equal to or less than the move characteristics shown on the unit's war scroll. You can't move within 3 of an enemy unit. When you pick a unit to retreat, you can move each model in that unit distance equal to inches, less than the move characteristics shown on the unit's war scroll. The unit must end its move more than 3 inches from all enemy units. You cannot shoot or attempt a charge later in a turn with a unit that is retreated. But that was always the thing anyway, wasn't it?
It always. Yeah, it's why you got abilities that can override it.
Okay. You can either choose for a unit to run or choose for it to retreat. It cannot do both.
Retreating and adding in your distance,
And that was one thing that that always caught Lucy out. Actually, in 40k, she forgets that you can't run and retreat. But in Sigmar you could. Now you can't. And that's massive for getting on objectives, because I'm guilty of retreating like things like Stonehorns if I'm not doing so good, or I need to get to an objective. I am absolutely guilty of pulling out of combat and running to an objective to grab it, counting as 10 models. Yeah. So that's an interesting change. When you pick a unit to run, you must make a run roll for the unit by rolling a dice. Add the run roll to the move characteristic of all models in the unit until the end of the phase. You can then move each model in that unit equal to or less than move characteristic. No part of a run can be within 3 of an enemy unit. You cannot shoot or attempt a charge later in the turn with a unit that has run. Obviously there's going to be books that let you do that, and as GW always said, if a codex comes out after the rules in the codex supersede the core rules, fine. That's not an issue. That's just the standard rules. You can use the following command abilities in your movement phase. At the double, you can use this command ability after you declare that a friendly unit will run. The unit must receive the command. That unit must receive the command. The run roll is not made for that unit. Instead, 6 inches is added to that unit's move characteristic in that phase. The unit is still considered to have ran. So that's interesting because now you don't necessarily need a hero nearby. Your unit leader can just do it.
Exactly, yeah. It opens up a lot.
Yeah.
This next one's interesting though, because this is completely new.
Redeploy. You can use this command ability in the enemy movement phase. After an enemy unit finishes a normal move, run, or retreat, the unit that receives the command must be within 9 of that enemy unit and more than 3 from all other enemy units. You can make a D6-inch move with that unit that receives the command, but it must finish the move more than 3 from all other enemy units and cannot shoot later in the turn. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, potentially quite interesting.
So you know that stone horn that you put 9 inches away from me, Grant?
Yep.
I'm suddenly going to retreat with my unit as stabbers and get out of charge range.
Yep.
Oh no. That's really good.
Yeah. That's a very nice ability.
Absolutely.
Again, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility. It seems to be a lot more reaction, seems to be the name of the game.
Mm-hmm. Movement rules. You can change the position of a model by making a move. Can be moved at the movement phase, the charge phase, and the combat phase, and some abilities allow you to move a model at other times, such as in the hero phase. To move a model, first trace a path over the surface of the battlefield showing the route the model will travel. You can trace a path in any direction or combination of directions as long as it does not pass through other models or over the edge of the battlefield, and as long as the length of the path is not greater than the distance it can move. Then move the model along the path to the new location. You can pivot the model freely as you move along the path. No part of the model's base can pass across the base of another model or over the edge of the battlefield. And at the end of the move, no part of the model's base can be further from its starting location. Nothing new there.
No.
Unit coherency. After you have moved all models in the unit, it must be coherent. If it is impossible for a unit to be coherent after it is moved, you cannot move the unit. You cannot move the unit.
Yeah, so if you can't get into coherency, you can't move.
That's interesting. But then again, if you're out of coherency, you're losing models.
Yeah.
I think that's just like a little protection clause, but yeah. Remaining stationary. If you make a move,
well, I think it's to stop you moving into a position to put yourself out of coherency. I think is really what it's doing.
Yeah, there's probably some positions that you might want to do that. I don't know why, but there might be.
No, but it's one of these things. I'm going to move myself here, so I'm on this objective. But it's going to cause me to go out of coherency, but I'll get the objective at the end of the turn. Well, no, you can't do that now. You can't willingly go out of coherency, which you probably could never do before. To be fair, I can't imagine you're allowed to do that.
Remaining stationary. If you make a move with any models in a unit, all the models in the unit are considered to have made a move.
Yeah.
If you wish instead making a move with a unit, you can choose for it to remain stationary. If you do so, you cannot move any of the models in that unit in that phase, etc. That's interesting because in 40k it's the model.
Yeah, it goes by model.
It goes by the model, so that's kind of interesting. Terrain. When you move a model, you can trace the path of its move over terrain features, but not through them. When you move the model, it follows.
Well, yeah, because you can't go through a solid wall. You can go through a door. So that's a gap. You're not going through the feature. Then you're going through out of space.
But what if the feature has a built-in door? Exactly. But not through them. When you move the model, it follows the path along the surfaces of the terrain feature, but its base is assumed to remain parallel to the surface of the battlefield as it does so. Jumping down from terrain features. When you move a model that is on a terrain feature, you can see it will jump down from the edge of the terrain feature to land on the lower part of the same or different terrain feature, or to the land on the battlefield. To do so, you must trace the path of the model's move to the edge of the terrain feature, then directly down to the surface below. The distance the model drops down counts towards the distance it has moved. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where we were before.
Flying. You ignore the models and terrain features when you trace the path of its move. In addition, when a model that can fly starts or finishes a move on a terrain feature, instead of tracing its move across the battlefield, you can trace it through the air shown in the diagram below. A model can't finish on top of another model or within 3 inches of enemies. Okay. Passing across. Some abilities require a model that can fly to pass across another model. For it to pass across another model, the path of the flying model's move must be traced across a part of the other model's base. Okay.
Yep.
Shooting phase. So I wonder how much has changed here.
Yeah, this is potentially interesting. We'll see.
So in your shooting phase, you can pick a friendly unit to shoot. When you shoot with a unit, you make shooting attacks with each model in the unit until you have shot with all models you want to. You can then pick another friendly unit that has not shot until you've shot with any units that you wish. When you make shooting attacks with a model, it attacks with any of the missile weapons it is armed with. A unit that is within 3 of enemy units can only target enemy units that are within 3 of it. Fine. Look out, sir. You must subtract 1 from the hit roll for an attack made with a missile weapon if the target is an enemy hero within 3 inches of an enemy unit that has 3 or more models. The look out, sir rule does not apply if the enemy hero has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. That's the change, which we've seen previewed. It means big stuff like Marathi, the Cauldron, Tree Lords, things like that don't get that -1 to hit now. It makes sense. That's what they've done in 40k.
Yeah.
A unit can shoot an enemy within range 3 without penalty. When shooting with a unit, you do not have to shoot with all of the models in the unit if you do not want to. This is different to when you are making combat attacks with a unit, in which case all the models in the unit must attack.
Yeah, that's been a thing, I think, for a while now, is it not?
A unit cannot shoot if it ran or retreated earlier in the turn. A unit cannot attempt to charge if it ran or retreated earlier in the turn, or if it is within 3 of an enemy unit. You do not have to pick a target for a charge attempt before making the charge roll. So this is still the way it was.
Yeah,
you don't.
I thought they would change that.
Yeah, because in 40k you nominate who you're charging, and if you multi-charge, you have to reach all of your targets for the charge to be successful, even if you roll enough to get your closest target but not your back one. In here, you're still just rolling your distance, then choosing, I think.
The reason I thought it was going to be a choose is one of the command abilities down here, which is one of the things it does concern me. Okay,
so we'll get that in a second, but in your charge phase, you can pick a friendly unit that is within 12 of the enemy unit to attempt a charge. You can then pick another friendly unit within 12 of an enemy unit to attempt a charge, and so on until you have attempted a charge with as many units as you wish. A unit cannot attempt a charge if it more than once in the same phase. Fine. Yep. Charge moves. When you attempt a charge move with a unit, make a charge roll for the unit by rolling 2d6. You can then make a charge move with each model in that unit by moving the model a distance in inches equal to or less than the charge roll. The first model you move in a unit attempting a charge must finish the move within half an inch of an enemy unit. If this is impossible, no models in the unit can make a charge move. Fine, still the same.
Exactly the same.
However, the command abilities, forward to victory. Use this command ability after you make a charge roll for a friendly unit. That unit must receive the command. You can re-roll the charge for that unit. This is actually really good, because how many teleporting spells and stuff is the grant?
Oh, pretty much every army has.
Now you don't need a hero to be there to give them that re-roll charge.
You can Hand of Gork your big unit of Ard boys into the enemy backlines and then just
re-roll the charge. Yeah. Doesn't help fanatics though, does it?
Well, no. They'll get a new book. Like,
no, but I'm referencing that game where I failed a 6-inch charge.
Well, no, but nothing helps that. We just have to move on from that.
Unleash Hell. You can use
this is the one.
You can use this command ability after an enemy unit finishes a charge move. The unit that receives the command must be within 9 of that enemy unit and more than 3 from all other enemy units. The unit that receives the command can shoot in that phase, but when it does so, you must subtract 1 from the hit rolls for its attacks, and it can only target the unit that made the charge move. Right, what's your problem with that?
So, you charge a unit,
Mm-hmm.
and any unit within 9 inches now can get a chance to shoot you. So we've Overwatch now in Age of Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of hitting on 6s, we're now only -1.
And then if you've got +2, you're counteracting it.
And it doesn't have to be the unit you charged. It's any unit within 9 of your charge.
It can only target the unit that made the charge move.
Yeah, but the unit doing the shooting doesn't have to be the one you targeted for your charge.
I don't follow what you mean.
Right. Let me get the wording up.
So it says, the unit that receives the command must be within 9 inches of that enemy unit
that
finished the charge.
Say I've got an enemy unit and I'm charging into your, we'll say your Arcanaut company, right? And then 9 inches of, and say even doesn't matter how far away they are, say 5 inches behind that unit, you have a unit of Thunderers.
Mm-hmm.
That unit of Thunderers can now shoot at my unit that charged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You don't even have to. It's not even the unit that you're charging gets to shoot at you. It's any unit within the range of the charge gets to shoot you.
So do you know what I figure happened here? When the Tau got lost in the warp, they turned up in Azir and taught everybody how to support fire.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is.
It's support fire.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. It's
how broken is that going to make Caradrins?
They're already knackered. I mean, I think you've also got some units that can shoot built in.
Yeah.
Like Skinks, I think, can do it.
Oh, they can retreat when they're charged anyway, can't they?
Mm-hmm. And Free Guild Guard could shoot when they were charged. Whether that transitioned into Siege of Sigmar as well, I don't know.
Right.
The pre-Siege of Sigmar, they could do that. So that was the thing that we knew was coming, that I was always a little bit concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Still concerned about it.
I don't think it's too bad.
We'll see how it plays out. It's only going to be one unit doing it.
Yeah. And of course, you can't issue it multiple times.
No.
So
all
of these command abilities. I wonder if there's a glossary further on of all the command abilities, because
probably.
Being spread out this far, I don't like it.
Well, they've said the General's Handbook is going to be the same format as Chapter Approved with the ring bound, and it's going to have all the rules in it as well.
What, you mean like the latest Chapter Approved that isn't ring bound?
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it not?
It's there and not ring bound.
Well, maybe it's not ring bound then. I assumed it was.
Lots of people were annoyed about that.
Yeah, because the ring bound was great. That's why
I know.
Chapter Approved books.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
Well.
Anyway, moving on to the combat phase. In the combat phase, the players alternate picking a friendly unit to fight, starting with the player whose turn has taken place. When it is your go to pick a unit to fight, you must either pick one eligible friendly unit to fight, or you must pass. A unit is eligible to fight if it is within 3 of an enemy unit and is not fought in that phase, or if it made a charge move in the same turn and it is not fought in that phase.
Mm-hmm.
So, a unit is eligible to fight if it is within 3 of an enemy unit and is not fought, or if it made a charge move in the same turn. Why differentiate that? Because if you've made a charge move, you'll be within 3 anyway.
I guess you could make a charge move, use your impact hits, take out the unit that you made the contact with.
Right, but then you're still eligible to fight, which means you would hopefully then get to pile in 3 inches and still reach something.
Yeah.
Right, got ya.
That's what I think it must be for.
Okay. When you pick
but yeah, generally speaking, it's going to be kind of redundant. But yeah, that's
when you pick a unit to fight first, you can make a piling move with each model in that unit, and then you must make combat attacks with the models in the unit that unit has then fought. If you pass, you do nothing, and the option to fight or pass goes back to your opponent. If both players pass in succession, the combat phase ends, unless there are any units with the strike last effects. Could you pass before?
Yeah, because you can only pass when you've got no units to fight.
But now...
It says that.
Where?
In the fight sequence, you cannot pass if there's a friendly unit that is eligible to fight.
Where's this at, sorry?
12.1, the very last line.
Oh, you can't pass if there is a friend. Oh,
so
right,
passing
okay.
is really only once you finish all your attacks. You then
Right,
pass
okay. But most people don't go, oh, I'm going to pass now. It's just, well, you've got no units. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, it's a pass.
Because you could voluntarily not fight.
Well, you can't anymore.
You can't, but yeah. Sometimes you might want to do.
You're just going to hit me in the face, and I'm just going to stand here and take
Yeah.
it.
Piling. You can move a model making a piling move up to 3 inches. When you make a piling move with a model, it must finish the move no further from the nearest enemy unit than it was at the start of the move. You can pile around units now.
Yeah, because it used to be model, didn't it?
Yeah, so for example, if you just touch the tip of a base on a Stonehorn, if you piled in and then touched the base, you then couldn't scoot round. Now you can again.
Easily, you can't get base locked anymore.
Yeah. So that's good the way they've worded that. Combat attacks. After you've made all the piling moves for a unit, you must make combat attacks with each model in the unit that is within range of enemy models. Fine. Strikes first and strikes last effects. Some abilities have an effect that allow a unit to fight at either the start or the end of the combat phase. These effects are called strike first or strike last. The rules in this section is 1.6.1. The rules in that section do not apply to these effects. Use the rules here instead. If a strike first effect applies to any units, those units fight before all other units fight. If a strike last effect applies to any units, those units fight after all other units fight. If a strike first effect applies to units from both players' army, the players alternate fighting with those units, starting with the player whose turn it is. Similarly, if a strike last ability effect applies to units from both armies, the players alternate fighting with them. If a strike first effect and a strike last effect apply to the same unit at the same time, then they cancel each other out and neither effect applies to it. But that contradicts to what it said earlier.
No. This is specifically related to this. So this this overrules that one. So other contradictions are different to this contradiction. This contradiction is specifically resolved in this way.
Right, okay. Because there was some that said basically whichever one is applied last counts.
Yeah.
But so not in this circumstance.
Yes, I used the worst example I possibly could then.
So basically, strikes first is if you're a 40k player, this is your strike first or charges. If you're a 40k player, so you resolve all them first, alternating. Then you resolve all normal combats, which in most instances in Sigmar will be charging units and non-charging units. Then you resolve the fights last. Am I correct in thinking, Grant, that Ideneth always fight first in turn 3, I think, with the tide?
Yeah, they can change the tides, and I can't remember if that changes that turn. It changes some of them, but turn 3 is generally the turn they're fighting first in.
It does mean now, if you have any fight first abilities, you are then alternating with them.
Yeah.
So, cool. And then it's got a nice little sequence. Start with combat phase abilities have used. Units of strike first effects attack.
Which is actually interesting. Yeah, they're making it clear that you use your abilities and then you strike first.
Yeah.
So, because for example, before you if you were striking first, it would happen before. Before the abilities.
Right.
So it was one of the ways to get around, for example, the Bone Reaper's shield wall, or the Sequitors being able to roll their saves, because you would strike before they could use their abilities. Now you do your abilities and then you strike.
Yeah. Yeah, which becomes quite interesting, because it's like, do I use this ability? Am I fighting first? You've got to think about which order are they going to get to attack. Are they going to get one attack? Like, if they've got 3 fights first and you've got 1, which one are they going to go with? Is it worth spending the command point? So it's interesting. It's a nice change. Attacking. When you shoot or fight with a unit, you make attacks with the weapons the models in the unit are armed with. The weapon that the models in a unit are armed with are listed on the war scroll. Missile weapons are used when models make shooting attacks, and melee weapons are used when they make combat attacks. Picking a target. When you shoot or fight with a unit before making any attacks, you must pick the target unit for all of the attacks that will be made by the models in the unit. Only enemy units can be picked for the target of an attack. Once the targets for the unit's attacks have been picked, you can make the attack roll in the order you wish. Yeah. Shooting attacks. When a friendly unit shoots, you can make shooting attacks with any missile weapons the models in the unit are armed with that are allowed to use, including missile weapons used by mounts. The target of a shooting attack must be within the number of inches of the attacking model equal to the range characteristic of the weapon being used. The range must be measured to the closest visible model in the target unit. Models can see through other models in their own unit. Some missile weapons have a range characteristic with a minimum range, for example 6 to 48. Units wholly within the minimum range cannot be targeted with these weapons. So that's clarification, because I remember that Iron Blast used to have a minimum range.
Yeah.
And it couldn't shoot with what it was in combat with. But if they'd made, like, if they were a bit of a daisy chain and made a charge, it would go, right, I'm going to pick that model, which is actually 6 inches away. So that's just clarified. Combat attacks. When a friendly unit fights, you must make combat attacks with all the melee weapons the models in the unit are armed with. Including melee weapons used by the unit's mounts if there are any. The target of a combat attack must be within a number of inches of the attacking model equal to the range characteristic of the weapon being used to make the attack. Fine. The number of attacks you make with a weapon is equal to its attack's characteristic. Make the attacks one at a time unless you are making combined attacks, see 13.2.1. If a weapon has an attack's characteristic of more than 1, you can split the attacks between target units. Cool. Some models are armed with 2 of the same weapon, often referred to as paired weapons. When this is the case, the attack's characteristic for the weapon will already take an extra weapon into account, or the model will have an ability to represent the model dual wielding. Fine.
I like this being in the core rules, actually.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen people asking, like, "Oh, I've got 2 of these swords. Do I get to use that profile twice?"
Yeah.
I've seen that being asked around, and it's just a good question for newcomers that are going to have that question. Here we know, nope, it's all been taken into account on the war scroll.
Experienced players will probably know that anyway.
Of course they will, yes, but
yeah,
hopefully there'll be new players picking up this for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Combined attacks. You can make combined attacks if all of the attacks are made by models from the same unit with the same type of weapon against the same target unit, and where the same re-rolls and modifiers apply to the attacks. In this case, make all of the hit rolls at the same time, then make all of the wound rolls, and finally make all of the save rolls. It's telling you how to fast dice, which is how most people just play.
Yeah, it's the only real way to play.
Yeah,
I don't think it's really
nobody plays. I mean, certain things people still have to play one by one. For example, I recently played a game with 40k with Sean, and the Archon's Shadow Field is a 2-up invulnerable save until he fails it. You cannot do that all at once. No. You have to physically roll it one at a time. And by the way, spoiler alert, he got splattered by a power fist because Sean made all of his punching attacks first, forced me to fail the shield, and then just swept me off the board with the power fist. Yeah. So the attacking sequence, use the following attack sequence for each attack made by a friendly model. In some cases you can roll the dice for multiple attacks at the same time. Fine. Hit roll. Roll the dice if the roll equals or beats the attacking weapons to hit characteristic. The attack scores a hit and you must make a wound roll. If not, the attack fails and the attack sequence ends. An unmodified hit roll of a 1 always fails, and an unmodified hit roll of a 6 always hits. A hit roll cannot be modified by more than plus or minus 1. This is the exception to the principle that abilities take precedence over core rules. So basically, if you've got something that gives you plus 2 to hit, tough, you get plus 1.
Yeah, that just clarifies it right out the gate. So if you're still playing out of a 2nd edition book, as most of us will be for a long time,
yeah,
that just sorts that out.
Yeah. Sometimes an ability will allow a single hit roll to score 2 or more hits. If this is the case, make all of the wound rolls and save rolls for those hits at the same time. Fine.
Yep.
Wound roll, probably going to be the same. If the roll equals or beats the attacking weapons to wound characteristic, the attack wounds the target and your opponent must make the save roll. If not, the attack fails and the attack sequence ends. And a modified wound roll of a 1 always fails, and a modified wound roll of a 6 always wounds. A wound roll cannot be modified by more than plus or minus 1. This is the exception.
Yeah.
Save rolls. Your opponent rolls the dice, modifying the roll by the attacking weapon's rend characteristic. If the roll equals or beats the target's save characteristic, the target is saved and the attack sequence ends. If not, the attack is successful and you must determine the damage that is inflicted on the target. An unmodified save roll of a 1 always fails. Nothing mentioned about a 6. A save roll cannot be modified by more than plus 1. Oh! Didn't expect that to go on save rolls.
I did, because of the command ability that allows you to give you a plus 1 to save.
Yes.
If you go across the page, all out defense is now a plus 1 to save.
So you can't go all out defense plus that hero thing that gives you plus 1 save as well. Right.
Plus 2 save, yeah.
Ah, I kind of like that. I do like that.
Yeah, it's just calming everything down a little bit, I think, and stop the stacking game. I think it forces you now to put your buffs into multiple units instead of just having one big unit with every single buff in it and throw it in.
Yep. Save rolls do not always succeed on an unmodified 6, and they can be modified by more than minus 1. So it's in.
Great
yes,
super happy that
it doesn't affect saves. It's fine.
Yeah, super happy about that.
Each successful attack inflicts damage on the target unit equal to the damage characteristic of the weapon used for the attack. Allocating wounds. Once all of the friendly units' attacks have been made, add up the damage that was inflicted on the target unit. The player commanding each target unit must allocate a number of wounds to that unit equal to the damage that was inflicted. Once all of the damage inflicted by a unit's attacks has been allocated, that unit's attacks have been resolved. And I'm guilty of this, and I think probably a lot of people are. They'll take models off as they go.
Yeah. But the other thing relating to this, and I want to double check, so we've taken it back a little bit. There was the option about triggers. What section was that in? When you're triggering hits, triggering abilities on 6s and whatnot.
Was it hit rolls? It was
under hit roll.
There. Sometimes an ability will allow a single hit roll to score 2 or more hits. If this is the case, make all of the wound and save rolls for those hits at the same time.
No, it was more of a generic one. I'm sure there was something about that. My point was, it was on about, so if you did mortal wounds on 6s, you should be removing them as you're doing the hit rolls.
I don't think so.
Have I been...
It was right at the beginning where if you have 2 effects that trigger, for example, on a 6 to hit, you pick which effect.
Yeah, but does it say it happens immediately?
No. Not that I can remember.
Triggered effect, here we go. Yeah, a triggered effect that's applied immediately after the roll that triggered it.
Yeah, but then you inflict the wounds. You don't remove the models immediately. The triggered...
a mortal wound.
Yeah, so the mortal wound is the triggered effect, right? You apply the effect immediately, which is the damage. You then don't allocate wounds until after you've done all of this. So your mortal wounds will happen on your hit roll. Then you'll trigger some mortal wounds. You keep those mortal wounds to one side. You do your wound rolls. You do your save rolls. You allocate all damage.
Just double checking it wasn't a...
Yeah.
You remove them and then you come back into everything else.
Yeah. Once all damage inflicted has been allocated to the unit's attacks have been resolved. Yeah. So a lot of people are probably guilty of doing this, and I don't think there's any harm in it as long as you let your opponent do all of their attacks. Lucy has a long time ago now. You remember when Retributors were really good with the Star Soul Maces? So she did like 2d3 mortal wounds, and she rolled the 6, right? Or whatever it was at the time. This was like 3 battle tomes ago. And the guy removed the models closest to him, and then Lucy was like, right, I'm going to go with my other 3 with the hammers, and he was like, no, you can't, you're not in range. And it's like, no. You resolve all of the attacks before you remove models.
It's exactly why the rule's there.
Yeah.
To stop you doing that.
But impact hits happen in the charge phase.
Yeah, so you can remove...
So you do remove models at the end of the charge phase. Well, has it said that?
Impact hits haven't been a thing yet. But it's...
But it's not an attack, so therefore I presume you would remove them?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
There might be a separate section for allocating other wounds.
There probably will be.
So attack command abilities. You can use these command abilities during an attack. Command abilities that affect an attack must be used before the attack sequence for that attack has started. The abilities take precedence.
These are the same names, but they are different to what they were.
So all-out attack gives you +1 to hit.
Yeah.
That's so much better.
Oh, so good.
So much better.
And one of the big complaints I always have with Stonehorn Beast Riders, because I'm just going to keep going on about BCR because I'm playing at the moment.
They only hit on 3s.
Horn set on 4s. Now, now they're horn set on 3s. So good.
It doesn't say that it doesn't affect mounts either. Oh,
well,
wait.
Just for that unit.
But
for the unit.
Do command abilities affect mounts? I'm sure there was something there that said that they didn't.
Don't take my dreams away.
I'm positive there was something along that. We'll find that later.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And all-out defense is +1 to your save. Great.
Which is also why there's that +1.
But it's interesting that they've swapped back to that, because Mystic Shield used to be +1 to save, and then they swapped it to reroll 1s. And then obviously all-out attack and all-out defense was reroll 1s. So it's interesting that they've put it back to +1.
Especially when Petrifex was a problem, when their whole army was +1 to save.
But at the same time, you can only do this on one unit.
Yes, but I was under the impression they weren't going to be doing much +1 to save. Now everyone in the game has access to +1 to save on our unit.
But at the same time, there's not that many, or at least at the point of filming this, we know of there's actually 3 units with a natural 2-up save grant. The Turtle has a 2-up save.
Yeah.
We couldn't remember that in our Kragnos review. Kragnos has a 2-up. And now the new Stormcast Annihilators, Obliterators, I don't know.
And the Bestowed.
Yes, he starts with a 2-up save.
Yeah.
I think.
I was thinking he starts with a 1-up save, actually. And Ren's
yeah. So it's interesting that they've done that, but at the same time, right, when you consider how many people simply have +1, +2 rend, like... Or -1, -2. Like, -2 rend is not uncommon.
No. I mean, it used to be, but the last year or so has really changed that. It's
like -3, like, there's scatterings of it. It's here and there, but yeah, like, +1 to save, I understand, because so many weapons have -2 rend on them now.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that they've gone that way. Wounds. A unit suffers a wound when damage is inflicted on them by attacks, and when mortal wounds are caused. See 14.5. So we'll get to them shortly. Allocating wounds. Wounds are allocated to models in a unit 1 wound at a time. So you can allocate the wounds caused to your unit as you see fit. However, once you've allocated a wound to a model, you cannot allocate wounds to other models in the unit until that model is slain. If a unit is destroyed, all wounds that remain to be allocated to the unit are negated and have no effect. Fine.
Yep.
Slain models. Once the number of wounds allocated to a model equals its wounds characteristic, the model is slain. And you cannot allocate any more wounds to it. A slain model is removed from play after all of the wounds caused to its unit have been allocated and all attacks that inflicted damage on the unit have been resolved. Fine. Returning slain models. You know, rolling that 6/6 for your man crushers.
Yeah. I've got my 2 man crushers back. What am I doing with them?
Some abilities allow you to return a slain model to a unit. Set up the models one at a time within 1 inch of a model from their unit that was not returned to the unit earlier in the phase.
Oh, yeah.
Because in 40k that was a thing. You had, like, the old Necron reanimation, you couldn't place it within coherency of somebody that had just been replaced.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they've now done that. So you're gonna have to. You can't replace them and then conga line them onto an objective.
Yeah. Again, just nice and cleans it up and just stops that sort of nonsense.
Yeah. Slain models can only be set up within 3 of an enemy unit if a model in the unit they are returning to that was not returned to a unit in the same phase is already within 3 of the enemy. Fine. Wards. Some abilities allow you to roll a dice to negate a wound before it is allocated to a model. Abilities of this type are referred to as wards. And the dice roll is referred to as the ward roll. Up to 1 ward roll can be made for each wound or mortal wound before it is allocated to the model in question. If the ward roll is successful, the wound or mortal wound is negated and has no effect on the model. So you can't stack Protection of Nagash with on the 6-up one, whichever one they get. Deathless minions.
Yeah.
Healing wounds. Some abilities allow you to heal wounds that have been allocated to a model. For each wound that is healed, reduce the number of wounds allocated to the model by 1 to a minimum of 0. You cannot heal wounds on a model that is slain. Fine.
Yep.
Mortal wounds. Some attacks, spells, and abilities cause mortal wounds. Do not make hit, wound, or save rolls for mortal wounds. Instead, the damage inflicted on the target is equal to the number of mortal wounds that were caused. Mortal wounds caused while a unit is attacking are allocated at the same time as wounds caused by the unit's attacks. After all of the unit's attacks have been made, mortal wounds caused at other times are allocated as soon as they are caused. So that clarifies that conversation we had about the impact hits and then obviously the mortal wounds with hit rolls. Mortal wounds are
no. Impact hits is different still. That's still a different phase.
Yeah, but obviously they happen in, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Mortal wounds are allocated in the same way as wounds and are treated in the same manner as wounds for rules purposes.
Yep.
Let's see if Battleshock's changed there. In the Battleshock phase, the players must take a Battleshock test for each friendly unit that had models slain in that turn. The player whose turn is taking place takes all of their Battleshock tests first, followed by the other player.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because if you've charged onto an objective, right, and you're hoping to Battleshock your opponent off them, but they've done a lot of damage to you, you have to do your Battleshock test first. Then they could choose to Inspire and Presence them.
Yeah.
I think.
But you can only do once.
Nope. Can't do that, Grant. Inspire and Presence further down. Use this command ability at the start of the Battleshock phase.
Yeah, so you've got to do that.
You've got to do it first.
Yeah.
So you must make a Battleshock roll for each friendly unit that has to take a Battleshock test. To make a Battleshock roll a dice and add the number of models in the unit that were slain in that turn to the roll. If the Battleshock roll is greater than the unit's bravery, the Battleshock test is failed. If the test is failed for each point by which the Battleshock roll exceeds the unit's bravery characteristic, one model in that unit must flee. You decide which models flee. A model that flees is removed from play. So they've left it as it was and not done it the same way as 40k. Split units. If a friendly unit is not coherent at the end of a turn, you must remove models from that unit from play, one at a time, until it is coherent. Fine. And then end of the battle round. The end of the battle round is reached once the Battleshock phase of the player taking the second turn has finished. The players must then check the battle pack they are using to see if the battle round ends or if any special actions must be carried out. If the battle did not end, all command points that the players have remaining are lost and a new battle round begins.
Okay.
Cool. I kind of don't want to cover terrain, but I do at the same time. We've still got a lot to cover, Grant.
This might be a two-parter at this rate.
Nah.
Well, maybe. I think we need to do terrain because I think it's going to change.
Yeah. You know what? Let's make this a two-part because we've covered all of the core rules, right? So let's make this a two-parter. If you've enjoyed our little bit banter, guys, thank you very much for listening to the end. I doubt anybody has stayed till the end.
Well,
but
if they weren't going to stay this far, they definitely weren't going to stay for the rest of it.
No. So now, in the next video, we're going to cover terrain, ender spells, all the other effects, and match play. Now that we've covered the core rules. So thank you for watching. Go and watch the other video, and we'll catch you there.